Okay, so this is back in 2000, I don't know, 10, 2011, 12, 13, something like that. I don't know, back in the past. And it's the way the shop used to look. And it got to the point of, man, there's needing a roof, and it's needing siding, and it's needing a new truck. And I mean, it needs a lot. So, I tried paint, and paint doesn't stick too good to plywood. And so yeah, eventually got to the point of, well, I gotta do something. So yeah, to fix it up, I could go the easy route and just throw tin on it. But tin is ugly, and it looks so cheap, and it looks so boring. It's got no style. I mean, sure, you can pick whatever color you want. That doesn't make it good. You get it delivered, you could probably get it done on a weekend. And yeah, you could even use the old stripey stripe on the corner, but man, that looks stupid. So yeah, we're not going to do any of that. And you could fancyify it a bit. No! So we're going to take the hard route, which means doing stucco and making it look old, because old things weren't easy to do, but they look cool. So this is the story on how I ended up stucco in this building and making it look like an old warehouse. Instead of rebuilding it all, I covered it up. So here I started putting on a new roof on that steep slope roof. And it was basically just framing up a frame, insulating inside the frame, insulating with styrofoam just outside the tin, covering it with tin. So I did that all along the building. Doing section after section. I'd build a section on the ground, bring it over, lift it up. Did that all along the front. This here's the roadside. Took all the old shingles off underneath and yada yada. Filled the cavity with insulation and kept on trucking on like that until the whole thing was covered. Just like that, and she's done. Then got to the other side where the doors are, and what happened here was there was an ant infestation up in the headers. So ants were going through everything, wood, styrofoam, you name it, they ate it all. And so ripped all that out, put in new headers. So after all of that was fixed back up, it was basically covered with plywood. And what I did with this building is I covered it with 4 layers of 3/4 inch plywood. And here it's pretty much covered completely. So really thickened up the wall. It added R value and rigidity and yada yada. So there the whole wall is complete, and then you start covering it with Typar, cover the whole thing up, and there that was the west wall was complete. So then I got around to the front wall, where I did the same thing, where I took very little pictures of it, but I basically covered the thing in 4 layers of 3/4 inch plywood, covered it with Typar. Here's the north wall. This I did in a few different sections. The upper part here, I made 2 different sections on the ground. Then I lifted them up here, fastened them to the wall. And yeah, it has a little stick out in the front, which I don't know what that's called, but there's a name for it. If you have a guess or a professional opinion, leave it down in the comments as to what that's actually called. So here it is complete with just the window cavities being left open, which there aren't actually any windows in this building. These are all going to be fake windows, just like the fake brick. So anyway, that's how it jettisons out like that. And then there's like a cap on top that also sticks out about 1.5 inch overhang, kind of like so. And then also cover it up with Typar and on to the next side, which is the south end. And here at the south end again, same deal. This time I built the entire wall on the ground, lifted it up, carried it over with forklifts, and fastened it into place. Then the same deal, covered it with Typar, and Typar the whole building. So now the whole building is Typar'd, and then the next thing, you put some stucco wire on it. On here you'd also notice the front. After it was all done, I peeled back the Typar, and I cut window pockets into it, because there's also going to be fake windows out front here. And, well, fake needs an indentation, so this will make the windows indent. You can see a bit of a close-up of it. So all of these pockets are going to be windows, fake windows. And here we start stuccoing. This is the scratch coat, and yeah, slapped it on and just stuccoed like a madman until the whole thing was done. And yeah, north, east, south, west. non-stop stuccoing the big building. So just stuccoed day and night. I was working on this. Never got any sleep until this was finally done. Stuccoed away. Then it started raining and snowing. So we left the project for the winter and picked up again in spring when all the snow was gone. So then had to finish off the detail and made these arches and kind of like a bulk of a trim around the windows that protrudes, that outdents the building. Something like that. It sticks out. So yeah, basically put these arches over the door, arches over the windows, and the little windows got little arches. So all these little windows in the front, they get little arches on them and some kind of a frame that protrudes. And yeah, did all that trimming. And then it was ready for the brick, the fake brick. So here's basically slap the stucco on. I did sections, I think about as much as my mixer would do at a time. And then before it got too dry, you get back to it and you start scratching it out. And I basically just used some hooks that I made and straight edges. No fancy tools or nothing. Here you can see I made some lines in the wet cement, and these lines would tell me where to make the line cuts. Then the horizontal lines, as you can see, a bunch of indentations here. Basically a board with a bunch of nails sticking out that gave me my spacing. So that's how I easily spaced stuff out, and it seemed to work pretty good. So I did the top first because you get a lot of mess on the bottom. So if the bottom was done, it would get a lot of splatter on it. Let's just put it that way. Went around the entire building, stuccoing and cutting. Stuccoing and cutting until I was all the way around. Here you can see the brick. It's kind of got some crusties on it when it's wet after you cut the lines. And then I would usually just brush it off with a broom, and all the crusties would come off, and it would look like just a roughish kind of brick like you would have in an old building. Then coming around doing the bottom layer. So here it's coming to the last little bit. And I tell you, I was glad to be done-ish. But I didn't mix quite enough. I had to mix one more bucket full, just for a little spot. Oh well, almost done. Okay, and then after it was finished, next thing was the paint. So here we're going with some brown. And, you know, part of it looks good, part of it doesn't. So the different mixes of cement actually made different colors of paint. So I would paint it with a dilution of 1 part paint, 5 parts water, because I basically just wanted a stain. And this is the result from one coat. So I painted the whole building. Then it looked even worse when it got wet. So what do? Paint it again. And yeah, eventually it got to the point where I wanted it to look old. And this two-tone blah blah blurry, what's the word? Blotchy. This two-tone blotchy look kind of makes it look old, so I was okay with it. So I painted it to the point where I was like all good, and I just left it at that. Then the next thing to paint was the trim. So all the trim was pretty bare cement looking, but winter rolled around again. So we went through another winter and then finally said, it's time to paint, because it's springtime. So I painted all the trim and the window boxes, and yeah, looked pretty sharp. Then it was time to put in the fake windows. So here it is, pretty much just glass painted black on the one side and glued into these boxes. So even like this, it looks kind of cool. And but the end result was this. Lattice, I think that's the word. Lattice put in there. And then the front has, you know, abandoned warehouse looking windows, which I kind of like. And the north and south, they have just black lattice windows. I had to keep the wife happy, so I could only do one side that looked abandoned. So eventually I got to the point where putting in these lattices, these are basically just siliconed strips of plastic, and they protrude a bit, so they do actually grab snow if it snows on there, and it looks like a legit real old window. So there's pretty much the finished product. And yeah, might not be everybody's taste, but I love the way it looks. It looks old, it looks rustic and cool, and a little bit abandoned. Yeah. Anyway, that's my story about fake brick.